A warm welcome to a new episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'm Ritwika Gupta and you're watching our very special festive edition. Tonight we'll be putting the spotlight on the automobile and logistics industry to try and understand how they're responding to this year's festivities. We have two very interesting conversations lined up. First with Audi India, and after the break we'll be chatting with DHL Supply Chain India. To kickstart tonight's episode, we'll be first focusing on the Indian automobile industry, which has something to smile about this season, with demand sentiment largely remaining positive. To get a sense of the on-ground buzz and how the auto sector is gearing up to meet customer demand, I'll be first chatting with Balbir Singh Dhillon, head of Audi India. Thank you so much for joining us today on Leaders of Tomorrow on this very special festive edition.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to kick this off by talking about the consumer sentiment, which has changed over the last 2-3 years. So if you could, for our viewers, begin by talking about the 3 or 4 major changes that you have seen that has impacted your business and also the industry at large.
Absolutely right. I think last 2 to 3 years have been very, on one side, very challenging, but on the other side also a lot to learn, and a lot of customer behavior changed. I think if I have to talk about a few things, then the first and the foremost would be digitalization. So this is something which has really changed, and the way we approach the business has changed.
Yeah.
So all this 2-3 years, while of course in the past we have been doing a lot on the digitalization front, but I think it has only accelerated the process, where the time a customer spends today online is much more than what it was before. Yeah. And today for us, digitalization is not just about selling the cars and going to the customers and approaching him to show him what the cars are on a digital medium, but it is much beyond that. It is pre-purchase, during purchase, and post-purchase experience. Right. And it is not just about car; it is the whole ecosystem around the car. So to give you some examples, the time customers are spending today on digital platforms is much more than it was before. We are also able to influence our customer through social media channels, and we are conveying our messages through social media channels. So that has changed. And the research that customers do before buying the cars is much more digital now. So we have to present across the mediums which are available digitally, so that we are not missing out to any prospective buyer. So that has changed. Of course, the segment that we represent is a luxury segment, and touch and feel is very important. So part of the journey happens online and part of the journey happens offline. So this is in our segment, it is a combination of both. But what we are also doing is our customers, once they've bought the cars, if they have to service the car, they can also reach us through digital medium, and we go to as far as picking their cars from home, getting them serviced, delivering at home. All the payments can be done online. Apart from this, our engagement with our customer is beyond just cars. So we have My Audi application, where there are so many applications which are available for our customers, including loyalty programs. If whenever they're interacting with us, whenever they're servicing their car, we give them some the points which they can spend within Audi network and also outside Audi network. So our engagement, our feedback with the customer is very enhanced over the last couple of years, and it is only growing by the day. Apart from this, the general behavior of the customers, they're very much willing to come out and spend the money. As India is a very young economy, so people, we were an economy where the focus was always saving. Yeah. You also see that changing, where people are coming out, the younger generation is coming out and spending money, which is also helping this segment to grow. The demands of cars at this point in time, at least for last couple of months, and I hope it continues, is only growing and growing very strong across the automotive industry. So these are the trends that have changed in last couple of years, and I only hope this becomes better as we move on.
Well, the festive season is here, and the auto industry at large, seems to have picked up steam. Tell me, what is your overall sense? Is the demand sentiment positive?
Oh, absolutely. I think let's say it's coupled by multiple things. At this point in time, not only the demand is high, but there is also a little bit of a shortage because of the global supply chains issues that we face. So what we are seeing is pent-up demand which is there for now many quarters, and it still continues to grow. And just to give you an example, last month was one of the months where we collected the highest number of orders in the last couple of years. So that's how the situation is, and it's continuing even this month as well. So the demand side is very positive, and the festive season only boosts it further.
So talking about Audi specifically, tell me what sort of, what are your expectations from the festive season in terms of number of bookings, and the sales, and more importantly, how are you preparing? How are you gearing up to meet this customer demand, in terms of maybe your retail presence, are you planning to increase, and even you're expanding your inventory, if you could just talk about that.
So the festive demand is every year. So we know this quarter, which is the last quarter plus the month of September, is always very strong. So we are prepared, we are geared up for supply. In fact, we just launched the new A8, and we recently also opened the booking for the new Q3. And we've really got very positive and really strong response from our potential buyers. The Q3 supplies will start shortly. Our supplies will start in the month of, let's say, November, December, and we are really looking forward to having one of the best quarters of this year, or probably for last many years.
Right.
And we're really geared up. Of course, we can do much better than what we have, because the demand will still be higher than what we can supply. But I can only request my customers or potential buyers to be a little patient, because we are trying our best. We are working with the headquarters to get as many cars as possible. We're getting a lot of support from them, but we still believe the demand will outperform the availability for us.
So the A8 and Q3, are you also hoping to commence deliveries during the festive season, or it'll take a little bit more time?
So A8, we've just started the deliveries. So some cars are already delivered, in fact, quite a bit. And the next lot of cars is arriving. So since the A8 is a fully built unit coming from Germany, and most of the customer cars are personalized ones, so the cars are on the way. Q3 is obviously one of our volume segments, so our supplies will start from the month of November onward.
I also want to talk about the markets, as in, I'm presuming Bombay, Delhi, these are your top markets, but what's the kind of response you're seeing from tier 2, tier 3 cities?
In fact, the growth in tier 2, tier 3 cities, we always see much more. Because if you see, let's say per 100 people, the number of cars or the number of luxury cars in bigger metro cities are always higher.
Right.
But there is a lot of strength which still is in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, which is very evident. So in general, if you look at the trends for last 5 years, there was a time when we used to sell, let's say, 40 to 50% of our cars in just two cities, Delhi and Bombay, which is not the case anymore.
Right.
So the spread of luxury is across the country. And we have 60 plus touch points across the country where customers can interact with us, of which perhaps 10 are in Delhi, NCR plus Mumbai put together, but they're also spread across the country. So I think the demand and the potential is across the country, and it's only growing.
Finally, Audi has completed 15 years in India.
Yeah.
Tell me, what are the major, and you have also spent a considerable amount of time with the brand in various capacities. Tell me, what are the kind of changes that you have seen in the industry over the years, and how has your role changed, say, from the pre-COVID role to now, are you spending more time understanding consumer sentiment more or researching more? If you could just share that with us.
You're right. I was also one of the first employees when Audi came into India. So the journey has been quite long. Of course, in between, I also moved to another group brand. And then I also had a role when I went outside India for some time. But it has been very enriching journey. I think personally, it was a big learning for me. Every day, I learned something new. What I can also mention is for the last 15 years, when we were interacting with the customer, it was a very different interaction. There was a lot of physical interaction. There was less digital 15 years back. It has completely changed. Also, in general, the more younger and younger prospective buyer or customers are coming forward. There used to be a fear 15 years back, if I buy luxury cars, I don't want to be seen in luxury. What will happen, this, that. So there are a lot of question marks. That doesn't exist anymore. So all those things, people are coming out and spending money. So this is something which has really changed, and I'm sure this is only happening for good in India. Right. And that's what my learning has been all this while. Of course, we were always in a phase where constantly evolving. So change, I believe, is the only constant. So we continue to change every year, something new we bring in. I think most important thing which the learning that we had from pandemic time was the look inwards, because that was a time when we needed to look for all the people, whether it was customer, our employees at Audi India or our dealership employees. So focus became completely human centric. So this is something which we would want to continue forever, our approach towards human centricity, and that's something which has been the learning. Of course, what we have also done is we looked at each cost element during last 2-3 years. So how can we work more efficiently? How can we work with less expenditure? So all those things we looked inward and we did the course correction. But I think something which we will keep with us forever is human centricity. And Audi, if you know, Audi means listening, and this is something which I also follow in my day-to-day working. So that's what we believe in.
Well, it was great chatting with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
It's time for a quick break. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'll now be in conversation with Oscar de Bok, DHL Supply Chain CEO, and Vikas Anand, Managing Director, DHL Supply Chain India, to understand their outlook for the festive season and the growth potential for the supply chain landscape in India. Vikas, welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
You know, I want to first start by asking you, what is the India story? How important is the Indian market for your global business?
Well, it is really important. I mean, it's by now the fifth biggest world economy to start with. We've been in India already for a long time. But we see that if you look at the various global trends that are happening, when we talk about e-commerce, when we talk about the move of production and changes of supply chains around the globe, when you look at the population, the labor force in India, you see all trends that actually clearly indicate a fast growth in the India market. But all that growth is also requires a very good supply chain. And that's where we come in. And so we see, on top of the growth that we already see at the moment, we see an opportunity to further accelerate our growth in India. So hence the investments that we want to make here. So that's why we're talking about the 500 million investment, the fact that we're doubling our number of employees to 25,000 in the coming years, that we're going towards the 25 million of square feet of operation. We have about 2,000 trucks. But also we want to invest on the sustainability side because many of our customers are also interested to invest, at least to not invest but necessarily, but make sure that they reduce their emission. So that's why we also want to, in the same period of time, make sure that we make some investments on the sustainability side as well. So those buildings, those square meters I was talking about, those will be all with solar energy, they will be carbon neutral. The structures I was talking about, we're going more and more to alternative fuels to make sure that we contribute to that as well.
Right. Because do you want to add in about the investment?
In fact, I think as Indians, I think all of us are very excited about the 5 trillion. So when will India hit the 5 trillion? And I think we firmly believe that logistics is the backbone which will take us there. I think logistics as a sector will accelerate us towards the 5 trillion number that we are all aspiring for. And therefore, as Deutsche Post DHL, what we believe is, as the supply chains across the globe becomes more volatile, I think resilience is the right word. And what we are spending in India, as Oscar alluded to, 500 million euros would go into building very, very large boxes. And when you talk about large sites, it is becoming more and more difficult for customers and supply chain companies to forecast what is the right volume that they want to do. And therefore, when we invest in these large sites, we call them multi-client sites. So what we have mastered the art is to run and manage a large multi-client site, which cuts across sectors, which cuts across customers, which really helps the customers grow and the economy grow.
After 2 years of subdued festivities, we are actually finally embracing, the festive season this year properly. What is your outlook right now, and what are your plans in terms of expansion? In terms of how you're increasing your capacity?
And when you talk about festivals, the most of our customers would like to stock for the festivals in advance. So the planning happens. There's a very clear planning cycle which happens every year for us to plan for a Diwali and for the festival season. And therefore, when we look at the kind of investments we are doing, so a multi-client site is a true blue investment which helps customers cut across. So what happens? I'll give you an example. If there are large fashion retailers, and we are one of the leaders on the fashion retail side, and if you are in a standalone site, you have a finite capacity, because the boxes of that site. And what we are building in multi-client sites is a box which are very, very large, which would mean that we are giving our customers a chance to flex up and down. And that is where we really play onto the festival season. So when we work with our fashion retail customers and our technology customers, you are working from home and buying technology like nobody's business, for example. And therefore, when we go back to our customer with a solution which talks about two things, we are giving you, a solution which is standardized and plug and play, where you can flex up and down. We are preparing ourselves for the festival season. When we talk about our people, a trained resource of people, when you run a standalone site, you may be good in technology, or if you're in a chemical site, you're good in chemicals, or you're good in consumer. But you're in a multi-client site, you're training people, cutting across sectors. So we have a trained pool. So what is the problem that happens for a customer not to ramp up for festival, for example? It would be space, people, it's man, machine, and material, right? So what we are providing a solution around is space, and then there are trained pool of people. So if you got an uptick on the tech side, we can move people who are working on the fashion retail side to the tech side. If there's an uptick on the fashion retail side, you can move from the tech to the fashion retail. I think that's kind of flexible environment that we're building will help us to manage the festival season. I think the customers are looking forward to. We've seen a lot of growth in the first half of the year. There is a global view on inflation, and we do have our views, but I think we see our economy as, Deutsche Post sees India as one of the fastest growing economy. For sure, we are at 7%. We are the largest growing economy globally, right? For the size of the economy that we have. And therefore, the first half for us was pretty exciting, and I think with the kind of views I hear from our fashion retail and technology customers, I think we are gearing up for a big festival season in India at least.
And maybe one thing to add to this, as DHL Supply Chain in India, we have a very good talent pool, because we've been in this market a really long time already, and a lot of our operational talents have been growing up within our organization and knows the market and its challenges really well. And I think that also helps really well when you talk about challenges like high seasons, festive seasons, and all of that. They know really well how to manage that.
Right. Yeah. Tell me, how can smaller, medium-sized businesses during this period utilize your vast network? They might not have the infrastructure, but I mean, they have like pressures, in terms of timely delivery. I read that you have some special price points. If you can elaborate on that.
Oh yeah, I think, I think we probably do the global thinking and bringing it local pretty well. I think we got a global fulfillment network. Now, what does a global fulfillment network do? It is a very smart solution, which is very flexible, standardized, plug and play, and provides great solutions to small and medium enterprise. So if you are a small and medium enterprise, say you are a direct-to-consumer company, a direct-to-market company, there are a lot of Indian entrepreneurs who are very good at IT, and therefore we're creating solutions without brick and mortar. So if you are a startup or you are a medium-sized company and you want to reach to your customers directly, and you are expecting support, that's where the fulfillment network comes in. And our fulfillment network in India mirrors the global fulfillment network. So it is about our ability, which I told you, we are in 160 sites in 40 cities, and these 40 cities are 70 to 80% of our GDP, for example. So within those cities and across the pin codes, then we have an opportunity to be given to small and medium enterprise, to use our systems where we can do fulfillment for them. So what does that really mean? We can do picking of the orders, we can pack them, and we can then ship it through DHL and carrier agnostic as well. We have interfaces built with a number of transporters. We are a very large transporter globally and in India, and therefore as a startup company or as a direct-to-market, direct-to-consumer company or a small and medium enterprise who is even doing B2B and B2C or omni-channel, our fulfillment network provides that service.
And Vikas, are you seeing traction in certain markets? I mean, or are there is the demand higher in certain regions? If you can talk about the geographies a little bit.
I think it's very nicely balanced. For us when we look at it. So when we look at the reason why we broke India into 3 clusters and the way we want to grow business by being closer to our customers, there's a very nice pool of customers in North. There's a very nice pool of great IT customers in South and in the West and East. So I think when I look at it from an overall balance, we work on 5-6 key sectors, which is technology, consumer, retail, engineering, manufacturing, life sciences. And when I look at those sectors, if I look at a mix, various sectors would grow at various pace in various parts of India.
All right. Finally, tell me a little bit about the e-commerce space here in India. Like, how have things changed, over the last many years? And if there are any observations, for the coming probably next 5 years or so, what do you think will really change the game in this space?
I think on e-commerce, one is what has changed is also the accelerated growth that we've seen. The other thing which is really important was the point that Vikas alluded to already, is that the growth of small and medium-sized enterprises that go directly on e-commerce as well, which is a very fast-growing group as well, who then have a direct channel there. So that's why we have set up these DHL fulfillment networks, which is an important one. The third one, which is important, is what I mentioned earlier, is that the growth of e-commerce drives a higher complexity of logistics. And that is simply because you will have a higher fluctuation, because it's the consumer that decides directly on the fluctuations in the network. Where in the past you would have a distributor, a wholesaler, and then a store. All of those are out and you go directly. So that means that complexity of supply chains has increased drastically with the growth of e-commerce. Third is, I think that growth will not stop. It won't go backwards. It might not grow with the same percentages ever, obviously, it will flatten out, but it will stay stable, because the widening of the number of users, we've seen it around the globe, but I think also in India, age-wise, that's not going to go back. That has widened, and that will continue. And the next thing is also the growth of B2B e-commerce, which has also grown, and which is actually now a very big growth driver as well. There is simply not a customer of ours who does not need or have an e-commerce channel to reach their market.
Right. Your expectations from the Diwali season that's coming up?
I think the one thing we didn't talk about was the big transport business that we have in India. So when you look at it, if you want in the Diwali season and you have a last minute order, we have a great solution around intercity air. We got a great solution around 2-hour deliveries, 4-hour deliveries, same business day delivery, intracity delivery, moving it by air. So I think we will help our the shoppers who are proactively doing it, but who are sleeping and want to shop at the last moment. I think we are there to deliver to your homes in 2 hours, 4 hours, or put it on an air. And yeah, exactly. I think so. That's the theme, and we really look forward to that.
Well, it was great chatting with the both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, it's a wrap on this special edition of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. From the entire team of Leaders of Tomorrow, we'd like to wish you a very happy Diwali. Thank you and good night.